And we're back. And our last caller, Redbone. What's your comment?
Hey, Miss Vonda, how you doing?
I'm doing good. What's up? Happy New Year, lady.
Same to you. Same to you. I was calling because I had actually two things to say. But the first is the first thing you need to do is teach your kids about the First, Fourth, and the Fifth Amendment. Those are the three things they need to know. They need to know that they do not consent to any social seizures, which is, I believe, the Fourth Amendment. The fifth one, the right to remain silent. So that's the first.
But here's the situation.
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And let me say this to you. What we know from the law is the police can lie. And many times what police will say is that if you make a statement to me, I will tell the prosecutor to go easy on you. If you make a statement regarding this and we already know what happened, then what we'll do is make sure that you get to talk to your mother. You get a bond. We already know that your man done told on you. We already know about a little man or whatever. And if you don't tell your version first, then he's saying that you did all of this and gonna put it on you. Even if all of those are lies, the Supreme Court has said that it is okay for the police to use lies and deception to get a person to make a statement.
Right. And another thing that people need to know is Michigan is not a stop and ID state. So if they try to stop you for frivolous reasons or whatever, you don't have to give them any identification.
But here's the situation.
Stop and ID state, and I will not give you my ID.
Right. And I agree with you, but here's the situation. So then the officer says, well, I'm asking you a question. Are you not answering me? Oh, okay. I'm getting you for resisting and obstructing. Now we know that's a pretext, right? Because you've indicated the law is correct. But then what they'll do is they'll say search incident to arrest. When I was arresting him for being resisting and obstructing because he was being belligerent and lying and not talking, etc., I noticed that he had a weapon on him. And then I found the weapon or I saw it. Then that weapon comes in. See, that's the challenge when you have situations with police officers that know a little bit of the law, but they know enough to trick a common citizen. So I agree with you. If you are in a situation where, you have a police encounter, you don't have to be able to respond to them. But then if that police officer want to take you're not going to tell us your name. Oh, it's like that. Well, where you going? What? Oh, you trying to be combative to me? What they trying to do is make something seem like it's not. And then when they arrest you, then guess what they're going to do? They're going to find a gun. And then they're going to say, well, listen, you understand what I'm saying? So you got to be very careful. What I tend to say is that absolutely shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. If you have a police encounter and you're in a vehicle, they can ask you for your license and your registration. We know that you have to give that. But if you just go into the store and say the
passenger is not required to give you ID.
But what they'll do is
I forgot the name, but the Supreme Court ruled that the passengers do not have to identify themselves.
But
is that not right?
Well, what they'll do is this. They can ask because what they can do is say it was an investigator. What we weren't trying to arrest, we just were trying to get some information. Man, we're not going to take you down. What's your name? And then they give it. And then what they do is they run the people's names. If a police officer, now listen to this. This is where it gets kind of shaky. When you're in a car, you have less of an expectation of privacy than you would at home or walking in a store. So because there is a less rights than you would have in your home, okay, because you're mobile, and then what happens is they give police more rights. And so therefore what they'll say, remember when you're driving is not a right, it is a privilege that is extended. As a result of this privilege being extended to you, you have less rights. So if a police officer pulls up and they're doing what's called an investigatory stop, I was behind you and I noticed that you didn't stop long enough at that stop sign. Let me stop you. Let me get your ID. Let me get your insurance and your registration. Now, obviously, because you're driving and there's a potential violation, they can stop you. Then what they can also do is then, of course, say, and they take everybody out. They'll tell the person to themselves. They say, "What's your name?" Say, "You're not in any trouble or anything. We're just trying to put this in our report." Well, people want to comply because they don't want to be perceived as being combative with the police. You get what I'm saying? Somewhat. Then the police go in a car. I'm sorry.
You know what, Vonda, and I'll talk about this another time where I had a situation with the police that I really had nothing to do with. It was something that happened with my neighbor, and the police tried to question me, and I told them that I didn't want to get involved.
But excuse me, but here's the situation.
I didn't know anything,
right.
And no, I'm not going to get my ID.
Right, but here's the situation. In a situation like that, though, were you outside of your home in your driveway, or were you in a vehicle?
No, I was outside. Actually, my neighbor had flipped out. This is what happened. My neighbor had flipped out. She had an episode. So she had called me, and I was worried, so I ran out the house or whatever, and I ran. It's like a condo complex or whatever, so they're like townhouses. She was like kitty corners. I ran over there real quick. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so she went after the door, so I was knocking on the door opened. So I'm trying to find out what's happening to her. I accidentally put my keys on the couch. Somebody called the police. First, she tried to say that I tried to break it to her. I couldn't get my keys. So when I saw the police, I just automatically started to leave because I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with this. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, and then but wait. Then of course they were Caucasian, and one of them asked me, why don't you want to get your ID? Do you have warrant?
But wait a minute, Redbone. Let me say this because wait a minute. Redbone, let me say this and then I gotta go. That's different because you have a greater level of expectation of privacy in a home or in a residence or on the street. That's called a police citizen encounter. However, when you're driving, you have less of an expectation of privacy. But listen, I love your comments. Until we meet again, I'm running out of time. But look, next week, I know, but look, make sure you call me back and call me back earlier and we'll talk about it because my belief is that the more education you have about the law, the more that you protect it. Mask up, be safe, and until we meet again, God bless.